I do recommend Meetup to a lot of my friends that are looking for different things. Wine tasting, movies, book club, meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, and it will make you more social. I do recommend Meetup to a lot of my friends that are looking for different things. Wine tasting, movies, book club, meet a lot of new people, a lot of new friends, and it will make you more social.
Welcome directly from the studio on the match, Hans Niemann, NEPO. For those who don't know me, I'm Eleyah, master from Serbia, and this is the last game that we are commenting today that will decide who is the winner of this match. As if you follow the first game this morning, we know what happened. We don't need it to look it twice. And here we go. Jan came earlier, leading this match with 4 points, while Hans is on 3 points. The game is about to start, everyone is waiting for Hans Niemann, and the famous Rookie 5 blunder by NEPO in the first game. Hans Niemann today takes the white pieces and will try definitely to strike back to show that he is the one that will close this match with a victory. Adjusting pieces. Game starts in 2 minutes. Let's see how does Hans opens the game. From what we saw in the first 3 games where Hans had the white pieces, there was Rosalimo, and every single time the same variation. So now it's a question. I asked NEPO yesterday in an interview after the game, will he repeat the same line if Hans goes for Rosalimo? Because obviously Hans will play either e4 or c4, because we saw recently that he played one game with a c4. I believe that maybe NEPO will go for something solid because he only needs a draw to win this match. He might go for e5. He might choose the Petrov, where he is actually quite famous as a big expert in 21st century in that opening. And they started a game. e4 by Niemann. And we are seeing Sicilian again, knight to f3. NEPO repeats knight to c6. Guys, we're gonna see very nice battle in Rosalimo again. And NEPO chooses e6, so we are getting another game in the complete same line. Obviously, both of them enjoys playing this one. And let's see where we see improvement now and what will Hans play. Because in this position, there is d3 and there is b3, one of the top moves in this current position. The live board is again affected for some reason. Let's try to adjust it. single time. D3 by Niemann and Queen C7 by Nepo. And Niemann plays now knight to C3. I believe that he opted for that line in the second game, if I'm not mistaken. Nepo chooses to go for E5, directly closing the center. Clock is missing for Niemann and Nepo. Complete same variation, which is very exciting, obviously. Finally, score is on the screen. So whoever asks again, what is the score? We're gonna be in the trouble. And Niemann goes directly. Knight to E2. So this knight placement is generally bad on C3 in the long run, because this pawn is perfectly controlling these two squares, so that's why he opted directly to play knight to E2. Bishop E7, H3, he wants to stop potential bishop G4. But on the other side, taking this knight on F3, I don't know if that's actually what Nepo wants. So even if bishop G4 happens, the knight to G3 and then H3 could come. But Hans is choosing knight D2, knight C4, followed by some F4 ideas, I would say. Or just to transfer the knight on that square and maybe go even C3, D4 breaks with rook E1, like in style of Italian game. Yeah, in that game, I think when Hans played the move knight to C3, I think that Nepo played the same line. And I think Hans went for also castles and Nepo went for some early F5. So I think D6 and Hans in that game played knight E2. And I think that Nepo played something like this, Hans played this, and then, if I'm not mistaken, Nepo played something like this, as I remember in that game. Yeah, takes, knight G3, bishop G6. Not sure if that was something like this. I cannot relate anymore, because so many different lines. And now H3. The purpose, prophylaxis, I would say. So now F5 is what actually Niemann is trying to bait again Nepo. But Nepo understands that this is generally not the best idea, because they already played the game in the similar style. And on H3 he might play something like knight F6 here. Just trying to develop, let's say knight to G3, let's say castles. And okay, positional grind, maybe something like this in the future, just controls the center. He might move this knight on H2 and then go for F4. There's a lot of ideas for white here. He can always look to consolidate every single time. So yeah, I believe that white has quite easy game, strategically easy game. I don't know if, let's say knight F6, knight G3, castles, and if Can go rook e1. That's my logical idea. Maybe a5 trying to get bishop a6. And then something like c3. And then he wants to get d4 on the board. Takes and some bishop a6 maybe. No, bishop a6 is bad. It drops the pawn. Bishop e6. And we have some updates on the board. NEPO goes for f5, guys. NEPO is repeating the same idea. He wants dynamics. He wants imbalances, obviously. We got takes, knight to g3. But I believe that Hans is prepared here because I think honestly that h3 was on purpose to provoke f5 because he saw that NEPO goes for this. Yeah, f5 is very dynamic. That's actually how NEPO likes to play. This is not bad for black. This is just playable, but on the other side has some downsides because king is in the center and it's quite imbalanced game. So this game might become really crazy like every other Resolimo that we got. I like the opening choice of NEPO here, to be honest, because it's very nice for audience. He played queen d7. He invites Hans to go for this plan, and now Hans can implement the same plan that he did in that previous game, and that's a3 b4. As typical plan to undermine and then go to open up parity, like knight f6, b4, takes. This is such a fantastic position. Let's say castles, maybe takes on f5 now, then at some point just consolidates with his pieces naturally. So after queen d7, Hans thinking what to do. There is some very interesting move, knight to h4. Obviously leaving the knight for free, but there is downside if they capture, and that's actually this check on h5. After bishop g6, we're going to collect this bishop. But the question is now, does NEPO want to keep this dark square bishop or not? Since he's supporting these dark squares, obviously he maybe doesn't mind doing it because he keeps this beautiful light square bishop around to help everything around, together with this pawn chain on the dark squares. So I believe Hans will not choose that. He'll still thinks about this plan here. I believe so. That's my opinion. Queen e2 is typical idea here, trying to control these squares. And as we understood in that previous game that we explained about Resolimo, exactly this line, this structure came. For black, it's always hard to push any of these pawns because once you push this pawn, you're forgetting about the safety of the e5 pawn. On the other side, you're forgetting the safety of c5. I mean, bishop is only the one protected. The more you expand these pawns in the middle, when your king is in the center, that's not a great idea. Is this the last round? Yes. Do you mean with previous game that Hans and NEPO have played the same similar position in this series or in another tournament? In this tournament, not just one, They played already 3 similar games with exact same variation in Rosalimo. The second game was the most exciting. You can search on ENDGAME AI website. You have options to see also other rounds. So game 2, game 4, game 6, and game 8. Completely similar variation. And you can, if you want to play with white and if you want to play with black, the same opening, you can learn a lot from exactly these games. To be honest, I learned a lot already myself just analyzing it without anyone here. And for you guys, I learned a lot here already. But the thing is, it becomes very, very nice to see this, especially in the last round. Doesn't matter they repeat it, it's very dynamic and very sharp. In one game, Hans went longside castles. That was the yesterday afternoon round. In the second game was also something crazy. The total score you can see in the right bottom, in the right corner, next to their names, next to the live board. So please do not ask me again what is the score. Lee Chess is streaming. I'll watch it there. You can watch it on NGMI. It's pretty much very nice board also there. Hi Eleyah, what are you drinking? Drinking coffee, but not typical cappuccino or espresso coffee. It's Serbian coffee. Some people are calling it Turkish coffee, but it's very strong coffee. And I'm also drinking Coca-Cola Zero. And I'm also drinking the best water in Serbia. I don't understand Jan's motivation. He's been playing like he's trying to just win the match ever since his victory in game 1. It's like he cares for prize money. I would expect him to try to gain rating. I don't think that he necessarily only cares for the prize money. Of course he cares, but you can notice that this morning round, like it was not about any safe play. He just had victory on the board. He didn't see it. Also, the other rounds were he was trying. He was always pushing, so he was not playing safe too much. Jan is the one that was provoking Hans. He was bluffing. He was risking, and Hans was not punishing these little risks that he applied on the board. That's also what Hans mentioned in the second day interview, that he believed Nepo in some positions where he shouldn't, because Nepo was bluffing. So it means Nepo was taking the risks. Nepo was the one that was putting the questions first. Will there be a playoff if Hans wins score 4-4? From what I heard, no. Because this is just exhibition match. And nothing special happens if Hans win or Nepo. It's just a matter of prize money and the ratings. If the match is 4-4, maybe if they agree after the game, they will be up to play rapid. But since they're very tired, I don't think so. I'm from Turkey. Greetings from Serbia. Are you going to resume making videos right after this tournament? Of course, yes. I just didn't have time to make a single video. I was not at home, and now we are streaming this match. Turkish coffee is just mud, yeah. Do you know Eleyah Toporia? I know who he is, UFC fighter, but I don't know him personally. Turkish coffee is really strong. You can drink with Turkish Till Light and some water that is more good. I'm usually drinking 3 Turkish cup of coffee per day. Hello from Canada. Hello from Serbia. Thanks for great commentary, Eleyah. Top notch. We'll be checking out your videos after this event. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something from these streams. Greetings from Pakistan. Greetings from Serbia, sir. I don't understand why Eleyah doesn't have more subscribers. Me too. So, Hans is still thinking here. Eleyah, would you rather have $1 million or 3 GM norms? Of course, $1 million. Is Knight h4 playable? We would get the piece back with Queen h4. Yeah, that's something we mentioned earlier. After Queen d7, Knight h4, Bishop takes h4, Queen to h5. At this point, Bishop g6 takes, but we mentioned that this bishop overall is a good bishop in defense. But we can notice that in previous games where NEPO held that bishop for the rest of the game, he was very restricted. So maybe Hans is not a fan of trading the pieces here. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Or maybe it's even a possible line, but seems like black pieces suddenly gets out. I still think that Hans wants to go with this plan of a3, b4. Let's say castles, b4, takes, for example. And I don't know, maybe knight e5, putting the pressure on these dark squares, bishop d2 or something. Yeah, I think NEPO is quite comfortable here. He can also jump on this square. Maybe in the future, if he managed to route his bishop to d5, could be uncomfortable for Niemann. On the other side, he wants to put some pressure on these pawns here. If he gets these pawns, he might rely on the endgame. So that's why he's spending some time here. Already 10 minutes, because from the opening, he got to 1 hour and 4 minutes. Now he's on 53 minutes. So he already spent some time in the opening. Is that a good choice for him? I don't necessarily know. And now he plays the move a3. So he finally decides to make the same idea of pushing with b4. NEPO also has many choices here what to do. It really depends on his choice. Nobody can go crazy here because position is quite stable and it's relying on strategical understanding. Are they going to participate in Uzbekistan Chess Cup? Yes, I saw the announcement this morning. It's very nice. What is the chess scene like in Serbia these days? In Serbia, it's getting quite nice. Month by month, it's getting nicer, I can say. They organized many, let's say, rapid tournaments recently. And that's actually what people likes. On average rapid tournament in Serbia, we have like on around 250 people. The peak rapid tournament actually in my hometown was with like almost 400 participants. For Serbia and for South Serbia, that's incredibly a lot. So it's going well. Serbia Open is the one tournament that will be this summer. Are you okay commentating alone, or you prefer co-host with you? I'm completely fine by commenting myself because I'm interacting with you guys. If I would have some co-host, I believe that we would not be able to read a chat because at some point I will talk, at some point you'll talk about a position. Okay, we would read the chat also, but as far as I know, it depends also how commentators got freedom. Do they interact with chat or not? I believe interacting with chat is really important, so doesn't matter how much is it professional event or not. Okay, some people doesn't prefer. NEPO played a5, so he clearly wants to stop b4 from Niemann, but on the other side, this pawn becomes suspicious when it comes to safety. Like, let's say Hans just develops, he plays a4, I would say, and then in this position, maybe rook to e1 or something, trying to activate the pieces. Like, pawn structure is really affected on Jan's side, but he's pressing. He wants to open up because he's a bishop here. And what is actually funny here, there is some sacrifice of bishop takes c5, and if d takes c5, knight takes c5, and the computer just wants to give this piece away and play now this position. But now we are seeing another computer understanding here, which for humans is really hard to do. Like now here, we could also take the knight. Here not, because knight is hanging, so after rook to e1, if bishop moves somewhere, let's see on g6, then the queen might come inside, puts the pressure here. Like there is no clear win here. It's just using the trouble for the king on e8. And that's actually why computer prefers, okay, I can sacrifice. And that's why we mentioned earlier how engines are comfortably finding these lines, because they're very good in concrete actions. Very good. 92 by Niemann, that's more natural idea because he wants to get on c4 and look for some f4 breaks. That's completely natural, something expected. He also said himself earlier in the interview that that was obvious plan that he could apply. Now he's applying that plan, so obviously he was improving. What is my name on Twitch? Like on YouTube. Can I be spectator of the game? How much is a ticket? Tickets are sold, I think. And it's in Belgrade, so if you're in Belgrade, you can just come. Maybe they're gonna have some tickets on board here. You can try. Another draw will be very disappointing and absurd. It will not be disappointing for audience maybe, because people like to see drama, obviously. But we were seeing the battle, a lot of battle. Like they don't wanna draw. They're not playing safe. You see, they're blundering too much. So there is a lot of fight here. How many people are in the playing hall? I think around 50 maybe. Around 50, maybe a little bit below 50, I don't know. Oh boy. Rainbow again on the camera. Why suddenly? Why suddenly? Does Nepo know he missed a chance in the previous game? He already knew it once he got out of the playing hall. He was very, very mad on himself. Will you participate in Kosovo Open? I don't think so. What is the point of this match? Who arranged the match? For ratings, for attention? Point is, I believe, to get better. He challenged usually stronger opponents all the time. If they accept the match, they play it. It's some new type of idea that was invented recently. We also see some other players like Erdogmus. He was playing against Topalov recently. He was also playing against Jordan Van Forest, I believe so. Jordan Van Forest versus Hans Niemann match was also about to happen, but it was cancelled. It would be like 2 weeks from now. Don't want to put oil on the fire, but what would prevent a spectator from checking the best move with an engine and signaling a player like they do in a baseball? Don't want to put oil on the fire, and you exactly put oil on the fire with that question. It's not possible because they're having phones outside of playing hall. There are like 5 fair play. Five crew from fair play team, 3 of them for, I think, spectating Niemann and Hans, Niemann and Nepo when they go outside. 2 of them for the phones. Why was the Jordan Van Forest event cancelled? I think he got another invitation from a bigger tournament, I think so. That's why, otherwise I think he would play it anyways. Erdogmus match versus Topal was a great match. I didn't watch it, but I remember that Erdogmus convincingly won that match. So Hans wants to go knight c4 and to push f4. Open up the f line, put some pressure on d6, e5 at the same time. Also threaten some little tactics. Nepo understands it. And actually the only move for Nepo here to not be that worse, because now Hans is more comfortable, is the move knight f6, which is logical and developing moves. Anything else here in this position after knight d2, anything else from Nepo will just delay castles. And on the other side, will allow Hans to strike convincingly. For example, if Nepo decides to step back with his bishop, knight to c4 would happen, and if now knight f6, for example, then knight to b6 will win the exchange. So Nepo will waste another time moving his pieces around. Rook to b8 might lose just the pawn on a4, which I believe there is no need to not take that pawn. So I think taking that pawn will not result in any tactical blunder, but Hans could just take it. On the other side, if he doesn't want to look for the pawn material, he can just go f4. And that's actually the reason why it's very important for Nepo to play here the move knight to f6. Because this is actually quite strong plan by Niemann. He actually improved that from the previous games. Never played it. We didn't see that he reached f4 in time. Now f4 is really, really big threats in the future. Despite bishop here and despite opening up, king is in the center. Whenever you have king in the center, try to open up the center. And that's why HANS is playing this move. Many people will think, okay, why are not getting out your bishop on e3, logical square, and let's connect the rooks? Correct, that's the principle of chess. But another principle of chess says that when the king is in the center, and if your opponent all the time keeps the king there, not looking for king safety, not castling, if you have a chance to open up, go for it. Bishop will find his square in the future, don't worry about that. So that's why knight e2. And now many people will think, okay, then why not d5? Let's try to stop the knight coming on that square. That's sure, but believe it or not, knight can just come back on f3 and put another pressure on that pawn. That's why I told you earlier, do not move these pawns. This pawns looks beautiful, but they are weaknesses. So now once he defends it, rook will come to the game, and who is going to defend this pawn? Not just that, this pawn is generally... This line is in trouble because king is here. If, let's say, the king is out in castles, then this pawn might be very strong here. But king is in the center. Also, there is sacrifice of the piece here. The HANS doesn't need to prepare it. He can just go straight away for this sacrifice. And now if he tries to defend this, then there is bishop f4, there is f4 here. Oh, we can just take the knight, sorry about that. But like maybe knight f6 here. Okay, knight f6, then rook takes e5, and NEPO played knight f6. Okay, he finally develops. So now the only move is knight c4. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to bring the knight here. You don't want to go on e4. You are technically improving the knight on that square, threatening knight b6 also. So HANS will pretty much blitz out that move sooner or later. He will not wait too much. Who is the GOAT of chess according to you? I think it's Magnus Carlsen, of course. Eleyah, what is your favorite opening as black and white? As black, I like to play Sicilian and King's Indian, but I also play Queen's Gambit declined. My opening repertoire for black pieces is quite wide, also with white pieces, but recently I'm playing e4 and accepting everything pretty much. Roughly how much do top GMs pay for regular training matches? If you mean on this match, or you mean on something else, I don't know. Or you mean GM coaches or whatsoever. Does HANS have another match after NEPO? I think he's playing next Uzbek Chess Cup, so this is another thing that where you can watch Niemann. Great commentary, just consider working on your English. Yep, thank you. Chess is so awkward, sitting across from someone for hours in close proximity trying not to make eye contact. Do you like to make eye contact, guys, during the game? That's just related things in chess. Like, do you like to look at your opponent's eyes during the game? Some people are not doing that. Some people are doing that on purpose. Your English is fine. Yeah, for you maybe, but there's some more native people than me. They're clearly hearing some grammar mistakes or something. Yeah, I mean, average Slav person and their English understanding. No. It should be better because grammar, I don't know really grammar that much. Only eye contact when you're winning for pressure. Sometimes I don't mind looking at my opponent, like to make eye contact. I don't really mind it. But sometimes it feels very awkward. It depends on the person, Like if I feel that I'm better against someone, that I will win the game, I can look him for hours. I don't mind. But if I'm playing someone who is stronger than me, like according to on paper, then at some point I'm thinking like, would it be distracting for them, But I'm not asking that question if I'm gonna distract the other person that is, let's say, worse than me. So because that's actually the respect. You're not respecting your overrated opponents on the board, and you're respecting stronger. So technically speaking, yeah, you should not respect anyone on the board. Eye contact, I don't know. I think it's not illegal. You cannot say and call the arbiter, he's looking at me. I mean, I can look you. Is it forbidden? Technically, you can look, but depends how you look at them. Are you doing something else, making noises, or, I believe there is no room that you cannot look at your opponent, even if he's moving. Why Hans is thinking knight c4 is the route that he started? Is he thinking for firstly simplifying a little bit? Or f4, I think it's not the best option now. It's clearly putting the rook on the wrong square. You want a bishop there. So I believe that this is not what he wants. I think this is not the thing, guys. Okay, he's maybe seeing something that I don't see, but let's say like this. You started your plan. Why not just to finish your plan? You have 2 moves planned. And that's how people make mistakes. Even GMs, I believe so. Like you start one plan, and then you forget what was your plan. Suddenly your pieces are on the halfway on the squares where you plan to put them, because, that's why people are saying even bad plan is better than no plan. And if you leave your knight on d2 and just start doing something else, then you didn't have a plan. You didn't finish your plan. And okay, he plays knight c4. Nepo played knight e5. And maybe that's what he was looking for, because he was analyzing, should he push f4 because there was a problem with this square that he might control back. But I believe still, like, do we gonna get another potential game where Nepo can take the bishop? Of course, in this scenario here, it's not correct because bishop is under the attack. And now after castles, we're gonna have capture, capture. There's always knight b6 actually, so he has to be worried about that. That's the reason why knight takes f4. I'm always forgetting about this fork for some reason. The point is that this knight is protecting and attacking at the same time. So taking this bishop technically is not good in this scenario. But Nepo is always suffering in these lines from castling. So this is after f4, he takes f4, bishop takes f4. This is literally the last moment for Nepo to castle. Otherwise, he's becoming worse in the game. Are you allowed to wear tinted shades like sunglasses so they can see your eyes? I think yes, that's also allowed. There was one guy wearing them in the one close tournament that we played, that I played myself. And it was weird, but I think it's possible because as long as they're not meta glasses. I have meta glasses, and on one tournament I brought them with myself. And I was like, I had the case, but inside the case they were not glasses. Technically speaking, it's an electronic device, but I forgot to bring the case out of the bag. And they checked me in the room after the game, and they saw the case of meta glasses, and they were fine because inside they were not the glasses. But even with the meta glasses, you can itself do anything alone. I think you can wear the glasses, but you cannot wear any electronic devices on yourself. I believe so. No fork now. Hello guys, welcome to stream for new viewers. I mean, Hans can play here bishop d2, but I think that's low. Because, technically, after NEPO castles, and if you spend so much time on the queen side, this might happen. Easily. And then after this, it's getting quite interesting, guys. Quite interesting. So that's why Hans has to strike back with f4 as soon as possible, actually. Guys, don't look so much into the evaluation or browser engines in the opening. Sometimes the supercomputers will give much different evals closer to equality. That's so true. These web engines are completely different. Sometimes this web engine can tell it's, let's say, 0.3 for white, but sometimes it's like 0.1 for black. It depends on complexity of the position, depends which engine you're using and how much is it fast. So it's really different. For some certain position, doesn't really matter which engine you use, but for something that you need to find something completely new, then yes. And the live board went out of control. Chess Mafia is spoiling my live board. Nepo hates sitting. Me too. It's nerves, guys. To become a very strong player, you need to be patient. Oh yeah. Yeah, muted. Prime, yeah, I mentioned earlier Prime Corona. Yeah, I'm muting myself time to time because I'm sick and I don't want you to hear my nose and coughing time to time. Coughing championship, we all know about that. Are you from Belgrade? Not originally, but then live here. Is your name spelled wrong in the title? No. My real name is that you can see in the screen, but I have my, let's say, content creator name, which is the one that I put in the title. And Hans finally played a move f4. Congrats, Hans. Very nice. So Nepo has to take that pawn, otherwise Hans will demolish his pawn structure. For example, after short-side castles, let's say takes, queen takes, and f takes e5. Hans doesn't really mind exchanging the queens and spoiling the king safety, because as long as you're maintaining the simplicity in this position, you're gonna have much better endgame. These pawns are providing huge role in the future, and plus Hans will be pawn up here. So f4 Nepo has to take. Potential happening in this game is something like this, followed by short-side castles, and still Hans has to take here. Rook takes f5, and then we can get this position where Hans will get some options. So on the end of the forcing line, we can ask some questions. So this is something that might come in the game. From this point, this looks quite forcing, and now Hans has to bring the bishop somewhere. Is it h2 or g3? I think doesn't really matter much in this position. Maybe g3 is generally more safe for the king, but on the other side, h2 is more safe for the bishop. It's not on the target from some rook g5 or something in the future. And let's say we might have here the exchanges, and then something like rook f8. But as we are speaking, this is actually quite comfortable position for Niemann, which engine can approve, because I mentioned earlier the structure is really deciding the things here. Also the pawn is hanging, the rook will come on e1, and now you see, guys, why this knight and why this bishop together are providing nice combo on this pawn on d6. So after f4, NEPO in not comfortable situation. Hans is finding these best moves, providing the only lines for NEPO. And if we get at some point to this position and Hans brings this bishop back, this is going to be very nice middle game for Niemann. Well, we finally see something really, really nice. And potentially better position for Hans. And NEPO took on f4. How many games have Hans won? Not a single game. Hans is slightly better here, and he has to convert his middle game because of better pawn structure. Oh god. Why camera problem again? Okay, it's back. Hans castled, and we can see this beautiful shirt all the way. Endgame AI. He takes on f5 confidently. We'll see rook takes f5. Quite forcing line. Hans took the snack. Feels comfortable. Feels confident. Look at his stare to NEPO. He understands that he is slightly better here. He understands that he can push this game. This is confident Hans that we needed. He's definitely confident and comfortable here. He plays bishop to g3. He wants to keep his bishop more or less close, so he can always have the gap for the king. But now rook to g5 is deal breaker here, where he invites king to h2. So that's actually the other possible line. I preferred bishop h2 as we seen earlier, because now rook g5 is still possible. Maybe he just wanted to have the bishop as close as possible to the center, and the options for maneuvering doesn't really matter, I would say, but tactically speaking, some sacrifice could happen in the future. Not here clearly, because there is no certain check on this diagonal. If there is certain check on this diagonal, this could become uncomfortable for Hans. But he's very safe here. So bishop g3 played. NEPO cannot trade a pieces. Why? It's a very simple answer, because all these pawns are hanging, and pawn structure really matters. More they're simplifying, pawn structure matters, and technically endgame is much better for Niemann. I can say maybe NEPO can try a4. Hans will not wait for this trade because he's getting the pawn on d6, but there's some compensation in terms of activity. Something like this, and then rook will come to e8, and then just trying to occupy the lines, maybe some pressure on the king. Computer defends this, but humans will see. So maybe we can just play something like queen e2 first, connect the rooks, trying to do something, and he played bishop g3. NEPO starts thinking, because he has so many options. He can even play rook g5, he can take the rook, he can play a4. I believe that NEPO is not a big fan of his position, but he knows that he only needs a draw if he wants to win this match. He wants to take the money at home in his motherland. A4 is generally good because it's fixing the structure and doesn't allow whites to make clear progress with his pawns, and on the other side is escaping the attack. So there is then no other pieces that can attack this pawn. Okay, there is knight b6 maybe in the future, but technically a4 is also like a prophylactic move. Burning the move, useful move to make before you see what your opponent's idea is. Quality of camera is much better today, of course. Is NEPO Serbian? No, he is Russian. Let's see. Do we have more HANS fans or NEPO's fans? Type 1 for HANS, type 2 for NEPO. Who is 3? Remember day 1 when the camera was 10 miles from the players and the red laser ceiling was frying the whole room? Camera setup has improved a lot. Believe it or not, this is the same camera, the same equipment, just closer angle and better settings, and that's it. Do your best Jamaican accent. I don't know what is Jamaican accent. Are you on site as well? Yeah, we are one room next to each other's. NEPO in problematics for prophylaxis, because these positions are very scary for NEPO. HANS could go direct, and these direct actions would lead maybe in some drawing lines. So even if HANS made here mistakes, he's not gonna be worse. But if NEPO makes another mistake, his position will become even more targetable. Will any of the players join you after the game today, Eleyah? I'll try to bring the winner. Or if it's a draw, maybe both of them will join. I don't know, depends on the game. Eleyah, if you were building a 5-a-side football team with chess players, Who are you picking? Okay, give me the range. Oh, you mean of course on the famous players, right? So okay, I know that Magnus is playing football generally. He has some skills. I would pick Magnus. I think that Winston Gamer would be great goalkeeper. For some reason, it feels to me like that. I don't know. On the other side, I think Hikaru will be great in defense. Firouzja as captain, speaking from the side court. If I get them both here, yeah, of course I'm gonna ask about a blunder that they missed, but I think that they asked for the chess players, top grandmasters. Jovelic is a professional football player, so Firouzja will have their feet looking nice, correct? Noderbeck, yeah, Noderbeck is, I would say, that's correct. Aronian is also. Angreza is currently injured. Don't put him in football team. Yeah, I know, but that's why he's on side. He's giving the advices. Yeah, nothing much changed in the position, guys. We're waiting for NEPO's respawn here. NEPO is burning his time here, like 39 minutes. On the other side, HANS 35. And I believe NEPO will take a few more minutes here to decide what to do. Until that time, I will leave you alone with them. And I'll be right back in a couple of minutes. See you soon. I'm back. I saw one question which caught my attention. How can arbiter follow Hans out but doesn't follow NEPO out? Weird. There's always a couple of arbiters out there playing hole, so don't worry about that. Eleyah, is there regulations against cheating when they walk out of the room? No phones, my friend. Whole area is forbidden with phones. Nobody in the audience has phones. It's okay. Hans, apparently plus 1.2 advantage, according to the web engine. But don't get excited, guys. We're not gonna get excited. We are already familiar that every position can be ruined, especially from this match. Specifically from a couple of games before where even Jan was winning, even Hans got some little advantage in the previous game. So yeah. Queen e4. So in this particular position, this is what we recommended earlier, but with bishop on h2, this is the position that appeared when we analyzed. Now we have something similar on the board with a couple of moves more because rook was played and queen stabilization on e4. So NEPO went for prophylaxis. Knight on d5 is strong piece. Pawn on a4 is a weak point. So I believe that at some point white can make progress and move this knight from c4, followed by taking this pawn on a4. I don't know why time is consistently ruining itself. I don't know what's happening. Maybe because of this. Did I solve the problem? Oh, not really. Okay. So the layout is consistently switching. Knight b6 is a blunder, my friend, because you're gonna lose your knight. So yeah, it's quite hard for NEPO to make a progress here. That's why he spent more time than Hans in this middle game segment. Let's say if NEPO just plays something here. I don't know how NEPO can improve his position, but obviously if NEPO goes something like rook to f8, maybe Hans can go for the queen trade here. Or if you want to trade off the queens, maybe he wants to stop rook to f1, so improving king on g1 could be interesting. Directly queen e6 is also possible, but there is king to f7. And now you're not in time to take this pawn in the future. But okay, it's possible thing to exchange. Maybe king g1 is actually a good improvement because white to allow the rook in the future to come on f1. There is no need for that. Rook to b8 will not make anything happen. Moving the knight from c4 and taking the pawn on a4, keeping the queens on the board will give some play to NEPO, I believe so. So Hans just wants to simplify and he wants to get to the endgame. I don't see little improvements for NEPO here. If he wants to move the knight somewhere back, then he loses the bishop here. So technically if he moves the bishop on f8, then queen to 8 comes. So Nepo might be in a zugzwang with his pieces. After queen e4. Knight can't move because of the bishop. Rook moves somewhere, queen e6. Bishop moves somewhere, queen e8. Strange position. If you just wait with king, also not the best reaction. Moving the king out of center. It's not easy, guys, for Nepo. I believe that if Hans keeps control and patience in this game, he has definitely great chances. Are those games federated? Correct. Nepo looks uncomfortable, exactly when he lost some games with Ding. Yeah, we can clearly see the confidence in the body language of Niemann. On the other side, Nepo not happy with the position. If you play knight b6 and then they take you, technically yes, but the problem is why you're simplifying that way. If you meant earlier, like here, knight b6, let's say, knight takes b6, queen takes e7, queen takes e7, rook takes e7, you don't want necessarily to trade this way, because after something like knight to d5, rook has to move, and if you play something like rook to d7, of course black will not wait and generate some other counterplay. I think it's not a great idea to go for this, because knight f1 is a blunder. So you would take with a bishop, but then knight takes e2 or rook to f2, and then there is certain counterplay for Nepo. So Hans wants endgame, but he's fine with a piece amount on the board currently, and I believe that this is a correct way. He definitely wants to keep complicating with these pieces on the board, because his pieces are actually and genuinely good here. Look at the coordination of every single piece on the board. Not a single bad piece. And of course, at some point, Hans has to make a progress with some concrete lines, because eventually he can't really improve anymore his minor pieces. Everything seems to be well. Maybe he can play rook to e2, the final improvement to hold a second rank. You commentate well, thanks. Yeah, but I had myself experience that generally even these type of positions you can ruin very quickly. So technically this is not easy to convert at all. Like Nepo will have great chances to provide a counterplay if Hans managed to slip something away. So technically, yeah. How many games left today? This is the last game. And this game decides the winner of the match. Engine says rook f7, king g1. And h5, queen e6. Okay, this is just engine most. I don't believe that Nepo will play rook f7, and the Nepo plays the move g5. Plus, almost +2 advantage for Hans. This is actually getting wrong. Nepo lost the nerves. Nepo lost nerves, guys. This is a great chance for Niemann. He definitely understands that this is not correct push by Nepo. And we don't even need the engine to understand why this is bad. The reason why is this bad is because you're opening up your king. And that's how usually many people are losing the games. Being in uncomfortable position, instead of waiting and trying to improve yourself a little, wait for your opponent, you decide to push your pawn. And NEPO makes this mistake. HANS is in a great chance to create winning chances. And I'll give you now one sequence. Why is this wrong? Once you push this G pawn, technically f5 permanently becomes target. So the knight in the future could come here and start exploiting other stuff. Technically means that if you want to bring your knight on f4, like knight e3 and then knight f4 here, then knight g4 will create a lot of problems. Where definitely they're gonna have some stuff here. Oh, actually, knight was defending this guy here, but if you go slightly back and firstly defend this, okay, then the pawn hangs. Yeah, this is actually getting really, really messy for NEPO. I cannot find a move that looks good. Natural move that looks good instantly for NEPO. Like every single, like even if Hans plays something like rook e2, I don't believe that this would be a problem for him. It's still having great position, even if he skips the move. But of course, he doesn't want to skip. He wants to create clear target. He needs to regroup the knight because suddenly the narrative of the game was changed. And another pawn is hanging. So there is no pawn protecting h6. Technically, knight e3, knight g4, putting the pressure on f6 and putting the pressure on h6 at the same time will create some chances. So that's why knight e3 is a very strong move. Let's say bishop to f8. We will take this knight. Or what if the knight just captures here? That's the question for many people. Rook takes, bishop f8. And Hans can just take the pawn. And then he'll offer the piece trade here. Like, this is actually very bad position. Eleyah, if Hans wins, what happens since it will be 4-4? I don't know. The match is just tied then. Maybe they're gonna get the rapid or something, but I'm not sure about that. Hans also has good time, so he doesn't need to panic. He's not in time scramble. Hans logged in. I think that generally NEPO was very impatient in this game. Obviously Hans made very big improvements and got very nice position even after this game, but he was not sure in the previous games because the opening that they played in this game was the same opening they played in the game 2, game 4 and game 6. And in the game 8, pretty much the same line. If you want to check that line, you can go to the endgame eye, find the NEPO Hans match and look for the games inside. Specifically this, you can learn a lot if you're a Rozalimo player, or on the other side if you play Sveshnikov, if you accept knight c6, bishop e5, Rozalimo stuff. If you prefer to play this e6 imbalanced lines, you can see also how NEPO handled it in first 3 games. In the 4th game, Hans is convincingly getting out of the opening, getting very nice position out of the middle game, and leading towards the endgame to get that winning position we want to see for the first time in this match. Is the last time, but there is always first time for everything. And I don't know if Hans ever played NEPO in Classical at all, and I don't know if Hans had any games with NEPO in Classical. I'm not sure. I know that he played him so many times online and Rapid and Blitz in general, but I don't know about Classical chess. And if so, I don't remember if he won any game. And Hans Niemann plays knight to e3. Let's go, Hans. Nepo clearly not happy with the position. Hans so confident. Look at his stare to the Nepo. Look at this. Very confident. We wanted this Hans Niemann the whole match, and we are finally getting him in the last round. Nepo is taking quickly on e3. Rook takes e3. Pawn on a4 is hanging. This is something that we just analyzed. If so, it's a clear pawn down then after this. Bishop f8. And Hans can just take the pawn. And this is clear advantage. No single counterplay. King very safe on h2. Rook on e3 protects everything. Bishop protects king. Bishop on f8 not in a counterplay. Slowly, Hans is proving. He took the pawn. Nepo not happy. And look at their faces. He knows it. He knows it's not a bluff. It's real. It's on board. Where this Hans was the whole game. And Nepo goes h5. Another pawn storm on the king side. Another exposing structure move. Nepo also knows, but he still bluffs, because that's actually the best strategy what he can do in this match. According to computer, h4 is a very strong move, provoking to open up some dark squares on the king side. Where if Nepo passes this pawn, then suddenly king is permanently safe, has this beautiful pawn shelter from the white pawns and also from the pawns on black side. Will play the queen back on e4 for sure, and start pushing his pass pawn, because to show your opponent why you are better. And Hans Niemann plays the move h4. Move after move. Getting little by little, proving that he is much better in this game. Let's put him in a full screen. This is very interesting. h4 on the board. Guys, don't get too excited, please. Everything is ruinable. Believe me. Everything. Unless we are seeing winning sequence. You know how many times we got excited in this match? And every single time it was a different scenario. So calm down. You remember last game? How NEPO missed one move tactic? Literally one move tactic. So everything is winnable. Oh no, rainbow on the camera. Chess Mafia is sabotaging the match. I'm joking. Bishop h6. He wants to take on h4 by discovering the attack with a bishop and pretty much creating the counterplay with this, but there is one check here, then queen to b8 later coming soon, or just queen e4. Just want to simplify, go for the queen trade. But since the NEPO opened up the king, there is no need for Hans to trade off the queens. Otherwise, if the king is safe, then trading queens will be preferable because he can just rely on the pushing pawns, but he can also rely on getting the checkmate ideas. So queen to e4, bring the queen back. Hans Niemann, queen e4 on the board. Very nice, very confident by American player. Plus 2.4 advantage for Hans Niemann, according to Endgame AI web engine. NEPO clearly unhappy about a position. So let's see the possible outcomes here. Let's say NEPO goes for d5. I think that Hans can just go for the queen trade, but as I mentioned earlier, there is no need for that. He can play queen e5, make the double attack on the rook, and pretend that he'll take this pawn on g5. I would say, let's say rook to f8, h takes g5, and another pawn down for NEPO. On the other side, if he plays rook to f5, then queen to e6, and after queen trade, double attack on bishop and double attack on the pawn. Bishop moves back somewhere, attacks the pawn here. We can play something like c3, we can also take on c6, then later take on c5, and he is clearly getting the advantage. So queen e4 on the board. This is also, guys, not time scrambling, but we can feel the tension on the board. We can feel the fire that happens in that playing hall, even though they have both 26, 25 minutes. NEPO so impatient about the position, trying to provoke Hans to make mistakes so he can get back to the game and hold these for the rest of the match. Match score is in the bottom right, correct. What is the possibility for the tie breaks in this event after draw? I don't know that even they're gonna be. Most probably not. Since they just announced the 8 classical games. Eleyah, is there a big screen on the wall behind Hans? There is a big screen, of course. That's why the audience is watching on that wall. And what we have on the board, g4 by NEPO. So he's closing it, giving the safety more for the king on h2. Eleyah, do you have a YouTube channel? I do. Evaluation bar is screaming. This is the Hans' best chance for the whole match. I completely agree. Rook to e2. Moving the rook from that attack safely, without panics. And just imagine this position, guys. How it would be much better for NEPO if he kept his nerves behind with his pawns on the 7th rank. So just to have the same position with the pawns on, let's say, g7 and h6 would be holdable with help of the engine, of course. For humans, it's very hard because this is just clear pawn up. Engines might hold the position if the pawns are on g7 and h6. They would try to find some counterplay. But for humans now, it's very hard to defend this. But as I mentioned earlier, don't get too much excited because everything is ruinable. He played a move, d5. The board is updated. Why are you panicking? Don't panic. Relax. Yeah, the match is held in Belgrade, in Hyatt Residency, where the Fischer and Boris Spassky match was playing almost half a century ago. Queen trade suits NEPO in this side because white to exchange queens, which I mentioned earlier. If his king is open, maybe you can go for the checkmates like queen e5 and then do this attack on the rook and try to take the pawn on h5. The passed pawn makes this so difficult to defend. I agree, because even with a queen trade, Hans is much better in this position and completely winning, actually, from some angle. And queen e5, as we recommend. Hans is doing his job properly. queen f7. NEPO is looking for the counterplay, but we can't really find it. a4 is on the radar. a4 is the one that starts destructing one of their pieces. He just needs to push that pawn. He has to understand that pushing a4, a5 will definitely destruct one of their pieces, so he can continue with the checkmate threats. That's why Niemann is trying to keep the queens on the board. If he won't know that move, of course, guys, this is played by accident. So queen f7. a4 should be played, and Niemann played a4. Niemann played move a4. He understands the destruction. NEPO, without waiting, responds with rook to f1, putting the rook, controlling the first rank. Jump scare. yeah, by accident. Sorry about that. He wants to maybe get from behind, but on the other side, he will completely leave the king. And you can notice now why the pawns are important to stay around the king when the queens are on the board. Oh, no, not that move, guys. Not that move, guys. Why is consistently mouse slipping? I'm getting trolled by this system. So a5 is now the move. He should just start pushing. Let's go, Hans. You know how we call this pawn in our country? Taxi, 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 taxi. Taxi. Call the taxi. He just goes. Yeah, guys, he just pushes the taxi. Straight away goes to the queen and NEPO resigns. And then that's it. And he plays it. Niemann plays a5. Taxi, taxi, taxi. We want to see taxi in the full screen, no? Rolling in the deep. We can clearly see that NEPO is nervous. Where is the taxi? Good question. What to do against Rook A1? I guess Rook A1 is not a big deal because that's the whole point of the A taxi. Distracting one of the pieces so he can go for the checkmate. Like, for example, let's say the Rook A1 happened on the board, then Rook to F2, and suddenly game is over because Queen has to move from that spot, and then suddenly some checks appears. H5 could fall, and that's pretty much game over. And I think that NEPO actually understands the position. It's practically over for him. Still not resonation, so we are here yet in the studio. NEPO goes, I think, what did he play? Bishop G7. Okay. He attacks the queen. Technically, it's a challenging move, but he is now not controlling G5 square, which Hans can obviously use. Queen to G5 is +4 for Niemann, giving option for Rook E7, Bishop E5, staring down that bishop, and he doesn't even need the taxi guy. This taxi guy... Oh, no, not that move, guys. No. Yeah, I don't know why Mao's sleeping all the time. So I wanted to say that we can skip taxi this time. We can go for the checkmate. No need to trade, guys. Actually, Hans can focus on the checkmate on the king side because black king is on G8 and it's very open. And NEPO goes for the queen trade. Hans goes for the queen trade. I don't know why necessarily he does that, but maybe he found the simplest way. King H7 on the board. Hans understands that endgame matters and he is relying on A taxi. Maybe we can ask him, if he wins this game, would you wanna found new company which is gonna call the A taxi if you retire from chess? Rook E1. Oh my god. What a move. What a move by Niemann. He wants to transfer the rook on A1 and then rolling that A pawn all the way to A7, followed by Bishop E8 and then promoting to A8. This idea we missed because we were occupied by Queen G5 stuff followed by Rook E7, but Hans just wants the safest way for this position. He can roll down this one little guy, or he can go Bishop D6 followed by Bishop takes C5. Rook to A1 will fall by, and this will be a very nice position. Like A6 is a threat of technically Bishop B8 and A7, but he plays Bishop D6 because he wants to take another pawn down. Rook to A7 will be faced maybe by Rook E7. Like if Rook A7, then Rook E7, and then if he takes this pawn here, okay, Bishop D6 on the board. Rook A7, then Rook E7. If Rook A5, he might want to play something like Bishop to E5. So he would need to trade, and then this Bishop endgame is completely winning for Niemann. Bishop E2 happened on the board. And now A6 is completely winning. Because if Rook A7, there is Rook to E7, trade of rooks, and then we just push later. Maybe he saw that after A6, Rook E7 takes, there is Bishop check, and then bring the Bishop all the way back to B8, but then Bishop can capture C5 and then push A7, so Hans is thinking, but he knows he's winning. Look at the guy. This is nervous. He's very nervous. He knows he's winning. He knows he's winning. He was about to push A6. Very nervous. Very nervous by Niemann. But he knows it. He just wants to make sure. He's patient. He's not doubting. He's just patient. He doesn't want to make mistake. Calm down. Nepo so desperate. Obviously very tired. Knows that he's lost. Will Hans play the move A6? Isn't Bishop E7 winning? No. There's Bishop C3 and then you're losing the pawn. So that's why he has to push that pawn at some point. And he pushes the move A6 on the board. On the board. What is the defense for Nepo now? How he can try to hold this position? Because the certain threat is Bishop B8 followed by A7 and followed by Queen. I don't know if he wants to go that side, but that's also lost because Rook E7 is coming. We might see the resonation. He pushes C4. He wants to hold that diagonal with the bishop. Nepo using last tricks in this game. But Hans knows that he keeps everything under control. Enough time on clock, no need to rush. Being patient in these moments is very, very necessary. So bishop c5 is the best move. 1 in the chat for bishop c5, guys. 1 in the chat. Let's make Hans to play the move bishop c5. 1 in the chat, guys. That supports a7, and then rook e8 followed by queen is finishing the game. It's not only winning move, there's many winning moves here, obviously, but that's the most convincing one. Bishop b8, I believe there is bishop d4, and he holds the a1, and he also holds the a7 at the same time. Nepo looks through the window. Not happy. The last moments of this match, how it will end. I told you earlier in the morning that blunder that Nepo made and missed the rook e5 trick, which is considering as the 2000 tactic, and bishop c5 on the board. He knows. It's just about a moment of resignation, or Nepo will try with another move. That rook e5 broke him completely today, especially because it was in the morning round. More than 2,000 people watching the spectacle in Belgrade, Serbia. Nepo knows. Bishop c3. Keeping control and attacking the rook. But now, rook to e8 for Hans Niemann. Followed by a7, followed by a8, queen. There is no way how he can defend it. And he plays it. He takes on d3. He takes back. And he resigns. We have a winner of this game. Hans Niemann tied up on 4-4. Stay tuned, guys. I'll try to bring Niemann in the studio to give us quick summary of this game. W in the chat. Press that W button. Are they considering now with the arbiter, guys? Stay tuned. Maybe they're considering rapid match to not be tied. You can notice that they're chatting something. Maybe we're not gonna have... Maybe this is not over. Maybe this is not over, guys. Let's see. NEPO clearly unhappy. Maybe he doesn't want to play. Let's see if Hans comes to the studio. All right, guys. Hans is coming. Stay there. He's giving some interviews. They'll be just right here. Oh, can you put here?
Yeah, I think you got the mic back.
Oh, yeah. Can you close the door? Welcome. All right. Before we start with this game, we want to ask you a question about the morning game. What happened?
I mean, I just c5 rook b had mixed up the order. It was just so bad, so bad. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I was fortunate. But yeah, today, I mean, we really, it's like feels like a World Championship match. You know, you play the same opening over and over again.
Yeah.
I feel like if anyone else plays this against me, I've got so many ideas. So yeah, I played b3 in the second game. This was actually my preparation, but I forgot. Yeah, was not great. a3. Yeah.
So did you relay that he might play again f5?
Yeah, you know, I could tell that first of all he was disappointed that he hadn't checked h3, because I mean, when I played b3 here, it can transpose, but it does. I mean, f5 is still not the best move. But you know, you would think that he would have checked it closely since I had played it in the second game, or at least we could have reached a transposition. So it seemed like he hadn't checked this, because if he had checked this, you wouldn't play f5. And you know, so, and then in here, yeah, queen d7. He also played, he keeps bluffing in the opening. I mean, every single first game I'm +1, second game I'm getting these great positions. So thankfully, I finally, punished the bluff. A3 was super strong. And yeah, once I got 92, I thought, okay, I'm going to win this game, because that kind of comes out of nowhere. This comes with tempo.
Can you give me 1 second? The microphone is need to go up, maybe like this. Let's try like this.
So, I mean, after I saw a5 and he's playing quickly, I mean, this was probably not great. And then at this point, I mean, this is just such an amazing position. I mean, so many weaknesses. My pieces are perfectly placed. He's sort of paralyzed. And this was just a very smooth technical position. I mean, it's so hard to play practice. I just sort of wait. And then, yeah, 93, I was very sharp, I mean, to see this move. So obviously this pin is just super strong. And then I saw this. And then knight g4. Yeah, at some point, okay, there are many wins, but I just didn't realize that at least my rook is defended, so I can check and take. But 93 was perfectly timed, because I'm sort of threatening, like if I have a move, I can go 92, a4 is a weak, have different moves. My king is so safe. And then I'm just up a pawn, and he doesn't have any counterplay. I mean, g4, just the end of the game, right? You have to hope. I mean, once my king, I just sort of pushed the pawn, and then I timed this check. I mean, it was just such a nice technical. Bishop d6 as well. Can't, rook a7, rook e7. So he's just paralyzed. a6, and then bishop c5. So, I mean, this was really, really great technical game. I mean, I wish there was I mean, I don't know why in all of my matches I haven't set tiebreak regulations. I mean, this is actually the first in-person match that I haven't won. I mean, I beat Anish, which was a big deal at the time, because that's 2680, he was 2760. Then I beat Vitigov, Bakro, Vidit, and a Wonder. So I never really thought, maybe I'm going to lose a match or I win a tie match. So I need tiebreak regulation. I mean, this is so stupid. I offered him to play tiebreak, and for him, he only makes money if he would. So I thought he would accept. I mean, it's quite weird that he wouldn't want to play tiebreak, even if I offered you tomorrow, because he, okay, he just gets double the amount of money. So and there's nothing if he loses. So
did he accept?
No, he said no. He don't want to play. Which I mean, there's nothing to lose. It's just either he gets double what he gets, like his appearance fee, and then or he gets nothing. So, I mean, I did lose to Dubov in Blitz, but I meant classical matches. I did lose to, but I did beat him the second time. And I mean, in a Blitz match, you kind of play a tiebreaker naturally. But I mean, yeah, we are playing an chess. I really, I just in the match. I mean, this first game was just so poor. I mismanaged my time. Whenever you go into this time control, you kind of have to adjust and remind yourself that you're playing with less time. And Nepo, he's someone who plays very quickly, so it's easy to get down to the clock, which is a unique experience. So, Nepo is a challenging opponent in many ways. I mean, he's also, he's quite, hard to focus against at the board, because of his sort of, yeah, okay, anyways, but he's just hard. He's a difficult opponent for me, but, this was super smooth. And I mean, I just wish I capitalized after previous games, and I didn't play so poorly in that first game. But it happens. It happens.
Yeah, we finally saw your confidence in this last game.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like if you look at, for example, in this second game, I mean, every opening, I was getting just amazing positional. Like, I mean, it was always these two knights. I mean, here, this is just such a dream. I mean, like, I've got, look at his pieces. I mean, he's not castled. I just, play any normal move, and there's nothing to worry about. And then to somehow, I mean, this was just very poor play. And then in the fourth round, I mean, like, again, he goes right into my preparation, and I forget, like, the first move, like, and somehow, fine, this position maybe I'm not going to win, but like to have to suffer in this was, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So every single time, I mean, I'm getting these great positions, but I'm not really capitalizing. Even this game, I felt like, I'm improving, but also just the time was always the issue. He was always up on time, and he was a very practical defender. But even here, it's like I'm the fact that I was even potentially losing or worse here is just ridiculous. Like, I mean, under no circumstances should I be under pressure. So I did a very bad job of sort of risk management throughout the match, especially with the white pieces. And I mean, him with white, like, obviously the first game with Berlin Endgame, it can be dangerous. I got a bit surprised. I mean, I wasn't as alert. I still should have held. I still played fine. And then the other two black games, I mean, maybe because he was leading in the match, he didn't take as much risk, but those were easy draws. So in reality, every white game, I'm putting great pressure. Like, I should have scored earlier. But, considering just the simple blunders I made in the first and seventh game, there's just not much to ask for. Obviously, it's a very grueling format, so those types of blunders are natural. But
how do you get this new time control, this exhibition, 60 points?
Well, I mean, it's not an exhibition. I mean, it's a classically rated time control. I mean, first of all, in my previous matches, there were 2 games a day with 90 plus 30, but that was just so physically grueling. I mean, classical chess already has such a low margin where to prove you're a better player is just so difficult. Because there's all this preparation and it feels like a rehearsal. I mean, my black games, for example, I mean, like, this was like basically a theoretical draw. I mean, and then, here it was also just a theoretical draw, so it's hard for both colors to find the margin. Obviously with less time, and the point of having 2 games in a day is that you have, more pressure. And I think that just like in most sports, every game should have a winner. So, like Norway chess is the Armageddon, maybe in the future, after these 2 games, if it's tied, we should have an Armageddon. So, I mean, I think that the format of chess, needs to evolve. And, there are plenty of ways for that to happen. But, I mean, that's sort of the goal with this match is obviously to put, great, stress and force players to really have stamina. Because when you play 1 game a day of classical, you have all these rest days, you have all this time to prepare. I mean, it's much, much less about your skill and more about, how well you just prepare. So that's the main point.
Can you tell us who is your next one-on-one match, if you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have anything planned yet. I was supposed to play Jordan, which is quite funny that Jordan came to the tournament to watch after canceling his match.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
I think I saw him.
But the funny thing about that is that, I mean, he could have continued playing the match. If we pushed the match just by 1 day, he could have played, but he said it was too much, too tiring. So I definitely think that maybe I'll play him, but I think after playing Nepo, who obviously is low rated by his standards right now, we should not forget that he almost became world champion. He's a 2-time candidates winner, 2-time challenger, won many tournaments. So obviously, showing this level is a great sign. I definitely think I left a lot on the table, especially in the white games. I do think that in the future matches, I want to go back to including rapid and blitz. The main point of only having classical is just because now I have some more classical opportunities, but I really wanted to improve my classical rating and make it to the top 10. So this was an avenue. But obviously for farming rating, if you tell me I played a Wonder at 27.14 and I played Nepo at 27.30, I mean, Nepo is like at his peak 27.90 just a few years ago. I mean, even 2 years ago. So, I mean, this was not an easy match. This was not like someone that you could expect to farm. I mean, I definitely think he's underrated. So it was a great challenge. And I think that being challenged in this way was a great learning experience. And for the future matches, I mean, the thing with these matches is that, first of all, players, I mean, NEPO wasn't that unreasonable with his financial demands, but many players are incredibly unreasonable with what money they expect. So a lot of the players have let's say, an idea of what they're worth, when in reality, I mean, it's like ridiculous. So organizing these matches, sponsorship, and doing all these things is difficult to make it sustainable. But I think that I'll now, since I have a lot of classical tournaments, this year I'm playing US Chess, I'm playing Chennai Grandmasters, I'm playing the Olympiad. Well, most likely.
Olympiad?
I mean, I should be in the team by rating. I mean, almost 99% should be announced soon. I haven't been selected yet, but I think they announced it July 1st, or they selected July 1st.
What is the requirements for?
Well, no, it's just the top 5 players by rating, and I mean, I should be number 4 by a big margin. So the Olympiad, there's youth champions. So I mean, now, although in past years, I mean, I just lacked classical chess, any opportunity to play classical chess, which I felt led to a decline or maybe being rusty. So I think that now I want to organize more blitz matches, rapid matches, maybe more freestyle 960 matches. To me, those are just more interesting. Like, I mean, to be honest, although this was an interesting match and it was a difficult opponent, I mean, I just think that rapid and blitz or freestyle or 960, whatever you want to call it, is just a better format and for me, more enjoyable and competitive from a competitive standpoint, more challenging and meritocratic. So it's like, obviously classical chess is what has all the prestige, but I just, it's not what I enjoy the most. So if I'm organizing it or I'm leading the organization, I would prefer, I mean, it's more so just if you're to get to play the tournaments like the Grand Chess Tour, you need a high classical rating. So that's really the main driver.
Great. What is your plans for the next couple of months next to?
Well, I have a
chess?
very basic schedule. I'm playing US Chess. I'm going to Uzbekistan tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
That'll be a very strong event. And then after that, I'll play the Hong Kong, the World Team Championship. ENDGAME is sponsoring a team. So I have a very strong team. We have Zhu Jin'er on the women's board. We have a very talented player from Vietnam on the amateur board. The grandmasters are Tabatabai, Sarana, Lazovic, Dominguez, and myself. So hopefully we can become world champion as a team there. I think we have a great team, especially the women's board. I mean, it's super strong. Getting someone like Zhu Jin'er was great. And then in the summer, there's Chennai. And Esports World Cup I've also qualified for, which would be a huge event. I'm very happy that it's in Paris. Huge prizes. So the next really big tournament of the year is definitely EWC, where there'll be a lot on the line. But until then, there are some sort of tier 2 top tournaments where I can try to improve my classical rating.
Great. For the last, do you wanna tell your audience to sign up for ENDGAME?
Yeah, well, I
Premier
mean,
account?
you can see on this is you're watching an ENDGAME, but if you want to support, no, it's okay. If you want to support the chess resistance,
Yeah.
you can download the app or play. We have a lot of cool things coming. Thank you everyone for watching. Maybe we can take a few questions. I saw a few questions from someone.
Ask the questions, guys.
Yeah.
You have a chance now.
But yeah, thank you for doing commentary. The Serbian Chess Federation was incredibly helpful and accommodating. It was great to have the Minister of Sport come. I mean, seeing that type of recognition for chess is incredibly important for bringing the game forward. And seeing so many people come to the games every day. I mean, the hotel was very accommodating. We had a great venue. I mean, this is where Fischer and Spassky played in 1992. So it's certainly symbolic for me as someone who idolizes Fischer and has studied and read about those matches. I mean, Belgrade, first of all, is a very special city for me. And Serbia as well, because I spent a lot of time competing in Serbia when I was first during COVID, because there were not many tournaments, but I had quite a few in Serbia. So I've played Novi Sad and Pericin. I mean, I played in the Serbian League where I won the gold medal on board 1 for my team, Jugovic Kac. So I've competed a lot in Serbia. I spent a lot of time here. So
Yeah, we know that from the first website you have HANS.
Yes,
documentaries.
yes, Ivan, yeah, exactly. So, that was great. So, big thank you to all the volunteers and orbiters and everyone who supported the match. I mean, I've organized a lot of matches, but in most of them, the federation wasn't so helpful and supportive. So that was great. Yeah, I mean, but our dogma is 2800 plus. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think it's good for a young kid to have so much pressure. So I personally, getting to 27, 20 at a young age is one thing, but you see a lot of people who break through at a young age and plateau. So becoming a certified top player is difficult. What makes Nepo style harder to beat compared to other players like Anish? I mean, Nepo, I mean, as a person, I mean, for me, he's personally difficult to play against because, I mean, there's been a lot of things that he's done to damage my chess career. There have been many, a few instances of tournaments where he's heard that I was participating and demanded that I was removed. So he was successful in that in the Gashima Memorial. So I mean, it's as a person, it's a bit difficult because when someone has said so many terrible things and tried to damage your chess career, you have to remain focused and unemotional. I mean, he's also sort of accused a lot of people without any evidence, and that's something he consistently does. So you kind of have to keep those things out of mind, out of your mind, and stay focused. I mean, but yeah.
Do you know that you're?
Yeah, I mean, by rating, I should definitely qualify. I haven't gotten an invitation yet, but I mean, it's June 1st. I'm in the top 3 people who haven't qualified. So
We can go with this last question here. If
I could pick any top 10 player to organize a match with, I mean, I think if they agreed, either Magnus or Icaro, but I mean, they wouldn't agree, so maybe Noterbeck or Fabi.
Do you think you're underrated in classical chess? If so,
Well, I just haven't had many opportunities in a long time. So I mean, my success in the Grand Chess Tour was great. So yeah, what is your workout routine? I play only tennis, inspired by Djokovic, the Serbian hero.
I heard many chess players like Djokovic. Also, Magnus were talking about Djokovic.
Yeah, I really like Djokovic. I just watched the Nadal documentary on Netflix, which was very inspiring. I didn't know how bad his injuries were.
How is Serbian food? That's
I've had some Serbian food. I've had the classic shish kebab. So no, I mean, I've had a lot of Serbian food. It's good. Is it a moral victory? I mean, if I won the match, it would be. But I think the main thing that he agreed to play the match is a moral victory, because in the past he refused to even participate in the same tournament with me. So the fact that he agreed to play a match after boycotting me is, I guess, proves that his old stances were hypocritical. So at least from that perspective, I feel like it's a moral victory. Are there Chipotles in Serbia? Unfortunately not. What do I think he agreed? Well, his classical rating dropped a bit, quite a lot. He didn't get any invitations. We're gonna watch the FIFA World Cup. I mean, it is America, but I think I'll be out of the country. Maybe I'll watch a few matches. And yes, I'm qualified to the Esports World Cup.
Are you watching Norway chess now?
Yeah, I watched it a bit. Wesley is super strong.
What do you think about Magnus losing 3 games in?
I don't think he lost. Yeah, he lost 3. I mean, I generally think that. I mean, I've said this many times that we should reward activity in chess. I'm not saying that he's super overrated. You can't make any claims without a large sample size. So, I think that classical chess, they need to. I would hope that the 45 plus 30, 6 plus 30 catches on and becomes more popular. And I think that the Total Chess Tour is a great initiative. And I think combining multiple... I mean, my dream format would only be 960 freestyle. I think that's really just the best chess format in the world, regardless, I mean, of the time control. But, I mean, that's a long way away.
Great.
Okay,
Do you want to read more questions? Or
No, I think that's great. Okay, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for the
that was
commentary.
Hans Niemann, and we'll see you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Alright, guys. That was Hans Niemann in the studio. I hope you enjoyed this spectacle. This was, honestly, for me, a very nice experience. I really enjoyed commenting this game. It was quite exhausting because these grandmasters are providing some ideas that average master, international master player could not really figure out directly, but using the help of computers, also knowing some ideas myself, I tried to bring you the best I can do. And I hope you learn some chess these days, especially from these games that we watched where NEPO hold the black pieces. We were having 4 games, repetitive lines. Even Hans was really surprised that NEPO keep going with the same line every single time. And I was very fascinated that actually happened in 4 official games. Unfortunately, in the end, NEPO rejected playing the tiebreaks. That would be even more exciting. Fair enough. He is very tired. Also, Hans is very tired. We can confirm that with the morning round where NEPO just missed, and even Hans missed, the simple trick. And I hope you enjoyed as well and learned something. I don't want to talk too much here. We're going to end the things very soon. If you really liked my commentary, you can spam the inbox of Hans' Instagram or mail address and you can recommend me twice, because I definitely like commenting the matches. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Now you can go straight away, and just now at 5 p.m. the Norwich has started. So Magnus and the company with Firouzja in famous sitting position because he broke the ankle, playing very exciting games there. That's it from me, from Studio in Belgrade. Enjoy, have a good one, and I'll see you soon.